Hi, I'm Kyle.
And I'm Zack.
And this is Those Who Conspire. Welcome, everybody. I'm joined, as always, by my erstwhile lovely co-host, Zachary Taylor Thomas himself, Zach Hightower. And then also today, we have a little special guest. Say hi. It's my son. He's staying at home today because he's feeling under the weather. So he'll be joining us and hitting me throughout this podcast. So viewers, listeners, you get an extra bonus treat into what makes this dad pod a dad pod.
Yeah, I like how he's just hanging on your back like a chimpanzee child. You know what I mean? He's just like I guess they do that.
It's pretty accurate what they do, and then I will be beaten like not the mama from Dinosaurs. All right, Dinosaurs was wholly accurate.
No way, Dinosaurs. I wanna rewatch that show, but I was thinking about doing just starting at the end and then going backwards. I don't know why.
Yeah, your impending fatherhood is doing incredible things to you. I think this is kind of a period of nesting where you're all of a sudden getting prepared, but you're also just jumping into the most random pop culture possible, okay? 90s reboot! Let's get spooky. What's Spooktober?
We just cover some spooky shit here on the show. And this month we're doing a bunch of stuff, and this week we're doing urban legends, like our favorite urban legends from around the world or the United States. I don't know, did we have parameters for that? Like, did we?
I was going to do urban legends from the United States for this episode. I figured this could be an evergreen topic, and whenever we make that huge contract with whatever insert advertiser here, when we bring back next year, we can do worldwide. But yeah.
Insert advertiser here, and then later it just says, once we have our advertiser, adamandeve.com. No? Was that not? No? You looked real uncomfortable when I said that. You were like,
I just was not expecting us to tell you exactly why Adam and Eve can spice up your life like some urban legends.
Yeah. It's better than Survey Monkey, I'll tell you that.
Simply safe!
Talk space.
Wow, they're shooting ourselves in the foot, and then there's taking off the entire leg, and we just kind of did that now, so that's impressive.
Oh yeah, decapitated, right from the leg down. Is that what that means? I'm joking.
No, not at all.
No, that's not what it means. No. So this week we're covering some of the greatest urban legends, our favorite ones from around the United States.
Well, we're talking about what is an urban legend and why we chose it. And the reality is, if we're talking about spooky stuff from conspiracy theories, one of the reasons I like this is urban legends, which are humorous stories that are circulated as though they're true, especially ones purporting to involve someone vaguely related or known to said tellers. They're also called, urban myths. As we've grown with telecommunication platforms like television and like the internet, where we're all more connected, along with existing construction and buildings, where we have a more urban society, we have necessarily flattened out a lot of these myths. Like, one of the things that happened when we were talking about Roanoke was, hey, guess what? Roanoke could get weird and super weird, and nobody could really dispel a lot of this because, hey, it was the 1500s, and nobody was connected to anybody. You wanted to get to somebody else? Float across the ocean. Okay? And urban legends function as that same sort of thing, where we connect, we communicate with other people, but we also tell these sort of spooky stories. The X-Files kind of chronicles that sort of weird America at its end. Now I don't think we necessarily have that. But we want to talk a little bit about this just because, content, and also because this is one of the things. We're filling up the content hole.
Usually we keep that as subtext, but sure, let's just keep going. Let's just say it out loud.
I mean, if we're talking about urban legends and, throwing in keywords and stuff like there, I mean, that's my SEO pitch for you, is urban legends content.
With you saying the context out loud, I figured maybe you were the one that wrote Halloween Kills. I wasn't sure.
I can't wait to watch it, okay?
So what's one of your favorite urban legends from around the United States?
Well, I'm here to talk about Dudleytown. Have you ever heard about Dudleytown?
I never have, but I'm assuming it's a town that was built around Dudley Do-Right, the famous Canadian hero from the cartoons, and played by Brendan Fraser.
You are correct about Brendan Fraser, and this is, of course, a Brendan Fraser stan account. We'll happily have him up here to talk about how The Mummy was a documentary.
He is always welcome.
Dudleytown is very interesting. This takes place in Connecticut. I tried to do more East Coast when I was doing research on my stuff. So for decades, books on New England legends have labeled it everything from Connecticut's favorite ghost town to the village of the damned. What you need to understand is that Dudleytown was a failed village, but it has existed for a long time as the sort of urban legend.
Wait, how does a village become failed? Can you explain that?
Dudleytown was a section of Cornwall Town in what is now Cornwall, Connecticut. It was settled in 1738 by a farmer called Thomas Griffiths. It's rested on a hilly plateau surrounded by bald and coldfoot mountains. You have other families that join, like Jones, Patterson, Carter. There were a bunch of owls. And then in 1747, the Dudleys arrived. This is the thing that happens. The Dudleys give their name to the town. According to legends, which were started around the 1920s, the later demise of the community stems from what is called the curse of the Dudley family. Records show that one Edmund Dudley had his head chopped off by orders of Henry VII for annoying members of the court circle. Yeah, we already have decapitation. All right, later his son, John, Edmund's son, the Duke of Northumberland, plotted to overthrow Edward VI by marrying his son, Lord Guilford Dudley, to Lady Jane Grey. After the king's death, she became queen for a short time before the plot failed. As a result, Lady Jane and both Dudleys decapitated. We got a lot of headless stuff going on.
I like it.
We have Lord Guilford Dudley's brother, who returns to England. He was infected with the plague. He spread his disease to the troops, killing most of them, as well as killing thousands of English citizens.
Wow.
Another one of Guilford's brothers said the Earl of Leicester later left England for unexplained reasons. His descendant, William Dudley, is the first to come to Connecticut, settling in Guilford. 3 of his descendants moved to the Cornwall Hills in the middle of the 1700s. That's where we necessarily cover Kyle's History Corner. Now let's get into the really good stuff. Dozens of legends recall the tragedies that befell Dudleytown. Let's talk about Gershon Hollister. You familiar with Gershon Hollister?
No. Is that the Hollister clothing brand?
Honestly, would love it if that were the case right there. In some accounts, in 1792, Gershon Hollister, which is probably going to be the subtitle of this podcast from now on, fell off an uncompleted structure during a barn raising. That's one account. In other accounts, he's murdered in the home of William Tanner, who's a neighbor of Abiel Dudley. There are other victims of the Dudleytown curse. The Nathaniel Carter family moves into Dudleytown around 1759, later moved to Binghamton, but the curse follows them. In 1764, Nathaniel Carter's away from home. A band of hostile Native Americans invaded their homestead, massacred his wife and children, then burned the house to the ground. When Nathaniel Carter comes back and returns, he's also scalped and killed. And then it gets even weirder. One of the more famous legends tells how Mary Cheney Greeley, the wife of Horace Greeley, hangs herself a week before her husband lost his bid for presidency in 1872. Then are you ready for this? The Revolutionary War hero, General Herman Swift, loses his mind in Dudleytown after his third wife is struck by lightning. Are you kidding?
Oh my God. Wait a minute, wait. Are you saying his third wife as if the other the other two had also been struck by lightning, or literally just his third wife?
I think it's just his third wife. I mean,
Still, that's crazy.
Medical histories of the Revolutionary War period, obviously not promising, which is why, we have an escalated, a greater life expectancy now. We're assuming that our, Elizabeth Taylor wives are not going to be struck by lightning later on.
Yeah.
By 1900, it had been abandoned. Residents began to leave because there was assumed to be a curse on the town. Then in 1924, Dr. William Clark buys about 1,000 acres on Bald Mountain that contains part of Dudleytown. Here's where it gets really interesting. According to David E. Phillips, who's a folklorist and the author of Legendary Connecticut, Dr. Clark and his wife lived peacefully in Dudleytown until one summer when he was called to New York on business. When he returns 36 hours later, his wife is gone. Nowhere to be found. Mr. Phillips writes about it this way. But as he pushed open the front door, which had been left slightly ajar, he heard a sound that he would never forget. From an upstairs room came the maniacal, uncontrolled laughter of one who had taken leave of her senses. During his absence, his wife had gone mad.
Wait a minute. Okay, so there's got to be something in the water then, right?
That's where folklorists and historians sort of come together. Now, folklorists who spread this urban legend in some way, they attribute the demise of Dudleytown and the resulting area to the curse of the Dudley family. But residents who'd lived on Bald Mountain for a long time, the community failed because of things like poor farming conditions and lack of financial opportunities. It makes sense, right? I mean, so you might have pieces that of a community that simply prospered and then died of natural causes. That's the sort of thing that happens. If you look at any community, you're going to see stories that are like this. Now, just because you have a proximity and all these stories that emerge, that doesn't make it unique among any local urban vernacular. However, because we have these sorts of things, you begin to think about whether or not it actually is a place. And so the urban legend necessarily grows. Dudleytown is often cited as what we call a dark vortex. Rumor has it that any visitor that steals an artifact from Dudleytown will have a curse put on them and their family. People describe an unnerving lack of wildlife in the area, as well as floating orbs of light and the sinister wolf-like black shadows, murmurs and disembodied voices, as well as a feeling of general dread. Then there's a mysterious group called the Dark Forest Association. Yeah! That polices the ground with militant force, and you've got yourself a serious case of,
Just like this isn't like a security surveillance group or anything. It's just like, is it just like a collective of normal people that just make sure people aren't camping out in Dudleytown?
I imagine it probably is because, the land is something that, you can't necessarily go onto because it's also private property. That's the thing. It's
I was going to say,
property.
The owner should have like overnights there. Like they should like set up and have like people camp out there overnight and stuff, and you pay like $100 per person, because there are people that would do that in a heartbeat. I would not, because it's outside and I don't like it. But they, that's a good money making thing.
Well, this is the thing. The local police patrol the area, and there's a bunch of no trespassing signs because most of what it was Dudleytown is now considered private property. Most people are too afraid of the curse to even think about it. It's an abandoned town in Connecticut. And as such, because it's abandoned, you don't have a lot of modern amenities, like lights overhead that would show your path. Here's the thing. The Dudley curse necessarily is tied to a mythical book that's believed to open the gates of hell. Yeah! They stole it, they took it to America, and the town they established is repeatedly plagued by murder, suicide, madness, and failed business. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into there. People are forgetting what actually establishing a town and the difficulties of life in this period were necessarily like.
Did they name that book? Does anyone know what happened to that book?
Of course not, but that's why it's necessarily seen as an artifact. This is the thing. If you visit Dudleytown outside of Cornwall, you're trespassing. So, it's one of my favorite ones that I come up with and I see.
That sounds like a reboot of like a mummy type movie where
Yeah.
somebody would go, not a reboot, but like it sounds like a Mummy type movie where somebody would like go to Dudleytown and they're like, oh, what's this? It looks like fresh dirt. Then they like pull up a book and they're like, it's the Book of the Dead. And then like Evil Dead would take place in Dudleytown.
All I know is when I was looking at this, I thought there's a lot of cool stories that came from it. Makes sense. New England filled with fun, cool writers up there. But it is necessarily just a series of urban legends that drive people to go up there. A lot of people in Cornwall don't want people to come up and visit right there because it takes people away. They haven't done the Salem thing, where in Salem, Massachusetts, you have extended museums, tributes to ghost stories and horror. You really need to come up and visit us whenever you've got your kid, and come up for visiting
sounds so
Salem.
much fun.
It is so great. Parking is a nightmare, but so is Dudleytown apparently.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess there's no parking if they don't have any amenities in Dudleytown. I guess. I mean, where does one charge his phone?
At least if they're demonic presences, they've upgraded to 5G.
Oh, hopefully. I don't know how I'd play Nintendo Online. I don't know how I would do that. Pay $60 to play Super Mario 64. But we're not going to talk about Nintendo Online. Is there anything more about Dudleytown? Because I'm not going to lie to you, it sounded like you hit a gold mine, like you hit oil immediately.
I got really lucky when I was looking this up. I don't really want to talk too much more about it because I just want to let it. I feel like we perfectly captured it, but if you're looking for a spooky good time, go down the Dudleytown pipeline. There are plenty of paranormal investigators that have broken into private property on Dudleytown to just experiment with it, and they say that, of course, there is a presence that is there. Possibly, whatever. I think that it's something that gooses people into believing it, but it's a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun. What do you got?
Well, I've got a couple of them. I don't have to go over all of them right now. I'll start with the one that's not as amazing, and then we'll get to the good shit. Okay, so in Oxford, Alabama, I know East Coast, West Coast, but I liked this one. Excuse me, sorry. Hold on. All coffee and no water makes a clogged throat. Who knew? Okay.
Science!
That's my science. That's what scientists do. They point up, apparently, to God, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why people point up much. They're always like, R.I.P., and then like do that. And I'm like, who are you talking to? Paul Walker?
What? Zach, no!
Hell's Gate Bridge. It's in Oxford, Alabama, right? In the 1950s, a young couple drove off of the bridge, okay, and they both subsequently died, all right? So, to this day, they say you do not stop on that bridge at night, because if you stop in the middle of it and turn off your lights, things get spooky, and then suddenly there's a wet spot in the seat. Now, I'm assuming that's from the urine because it's so scary, but what people usually say is that it's the ghosts coming and sitting in the car with you, right?
Ooh.
So it got its name because when you drive across the bridge at night, they say that if you look in the rearview mirror, the road actually resembles the gates of hell, which is kind of an awesome urban legend. That's awesome.
That is great. Yeah, I've got a hell adjacent urban legend for you. Ready? Because I did take this East Coast, West Coast thing seriously. How about you?
Go ahead and do yours. Go ahead.
You've got Gates of Hell. I've got 7. This is a modern urban legend regarding locations in York County, Pennsylvania. There are 2 popular versions of the myth. There are numerous variations. One focuses on a mental institution that used to be located on either Toad Road or Trout Run Road, depending on the source, in Hellam Township, Pennsylvania. It was placed in a remote location as to isolate people deemed insane from the rest of the world. A fire broke out one day in the 1900s. Due to its remoteness, firefighters could not reach the hospital in time, so many patients died in the flames, while others escaped and were soon beaten to death. So it's presumed that, the gates are actually part of hell. Now, obviously, the gates' role in the story is up for debate. Some say the gates were put up by the local search party to trap the inmates. Others say that, completely unrelated to the story, there's an eccentric physician who lived on the property. They built several gates along a deep path through the forest. Both accounts agree on only one gate being visible during the day, but the other 6 can be seen at night. According to the legend, here we go. No one has ever passed the 5th gate. But if someone passes through all 7 gates, they go directly to hell.
Wait a minute. So if urban legends say that no one's passed through more than 5, how do they know that? If someone passed through the 5th one and then disappeared, you're not going to know if they went through the 6th one. Maybe they did go through all 7 and went straight to hell. Maybe it's like a Sam Raimi movie.
drag me through the gates of hell, okay? But it makes sense. This is where one of those urban legends necessarily come from. Gates of hell.
You mentioned that the town, I'm assuming like a posse beat all of these escaped mental patients to death. Did you mention that? Because you just went past that like that was a normal thing.
None of this is normal, and unfortunately it stems from stereotypes and dangerous, problematic associations with persons that suffered from mental illness and had mental health diagnoses that weren't given around this time. And so the problem is, whenever these sort of asylums were set up, the gate that was set up on Toad Road or Trout Run was presumably done as a means of like keeping the town safe. And there were people that necessarily took this as an opportunity to try to beat people out. This is one of the problems with urban legends and why it ties in with conspiracy theories, right? That mask some really problematic truths. We can talk about how there was a science that was looking at craniums of individuals that was used as a justification for treating African-American individuals as lesser than. And that was a horrible misrepresentation of medical science. Yeah, we have some messed up stuff.
Is that building still there? Like, can you visit it?
No, I mean, this is the thing. The gates are the thing that people look for. The building's gone. So there used to be a road in Hellam Township named Toad Road, but it was wiped off the map after Hurricane Agnes in 1972. This road runs along the Coteras Creek and led to the Coteras Furnace, which was a historic iron forge and National Historic District at Hellam Township in York County, PA. There's only one gate that exists today, and this is set up by Harold Belknap, who's a practitioner at Westside Sanitarium. This exists at the corner of Trout Run Road and Ridge Road. I did say that the building had burned down. There is a different sanitarium that is put up today. It's a historic sanitarium complex that is found there. There's large medical buildings and multiple residences. Originally a hotel. Oh, we'll get into all this sort of thing here. Belknap would actually lean in. He would often make threatening signs for any trespassers, most likely those interested in the legend, with toad-related humor written on them. This is how the road gets its name. There's a related myth that states that Hellam was named after hell. It's untrue as well. It's a corruption of Hallam after Hallamshire, England. So, the thing is, again, what's so interesting about this and about Dudleytown is the area purported to be the location of the 7 gates is also on private property, and trespassers can be prosecuted. Have you noticed a connection right here? Where we can't go, we make up stories about it?
Yeah, it seems like the plot of every Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, I'd like to hear your next one, because I feel like we've covered the gates of hell around New England pretty well.
Okay, so I have one more before I do my favorite West Coast one. So this one takes place in Lake Lanier in Georgia. Am I saying Lake Lanier right? I don't know. Lake Lanier in Georgia, right, is a man-made lake. You see, in the 1940s, Georgia wanted to create a lake, right? So they got it approved by the country. They got funding and everything like that. But they didn't have a place to put a man-made lake. So what did they do? They used eminent domain to evict people from entire towns.
God.
And then they just flooded them. They didn't tear anything down. They didn't get rid of anything. They just flooded them, which, by the way, included multiple cemeteries. Most of the graves were actually unmarked, right?
Oh, no.
People talk about swimming in this lake and feeling like hands and legs and stuff like that, but not finding anyone around them. And it's literally because some of the bodies have become unburied and are in the lake now. And not only that, but since its construction in 1956, 675 people have died in the waters. Most of them were never found.
That is horrifying and intriguing. So that is a find right there. That is where is this? Where's Lake Lanier? Where is it in relation to, say, like Atlanta or Savannah?
Okay, it looks like it's actually probably about 30 minutes outside of Atlanta.
Okay, 30 minutes outside of Atlanta. So, okay, so when the pandemic's over, everybody's going to hop on a Delta flight and get to the central hub and then head out to Lake Lanier, I'm assuming.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. You know what? It's actually right outside of Atlanta, so there's a good possibility that at least some movies in the MCU were actually filmed at Lake Lanier.
Okay, maybe that's where we can find the original James Rhodes corpse in there.
I like the idea of making that canon. Be like, he died. We need a new body.
I do. Wouldn't it be great just to see this sort of thing happen? I mean, also shout out to Lock and Key, which is actually pulling some of this into it from its depiction of Dodge. Have you read Lock and Key?
I've read all of the comics. I've only seen half of the first season, though, on Netflix. But I've read the comics.
I love the comics, too. I got it for my wife recently, and I look forward to her reading because she's a big Joe Hill fan, who clearly understands his urban legends.
They're so much fun.
Yeah. Joe Hill, Gabriel Rodriguez, great stuff right there. Listeners, viewers, if you haven't already done so, please take the Lock and Key plunge, okay? It's going to open a door to great entertainment.
So do you have another one? Urban legend? Or
I want to hear you close it out, okay? I really want to hear you close this
all
one
right.
out.
My final urban legend, right? It actually takes place here in Hollywood at probably the most famous place in the city, okay? That's right, we're talking about the Hollywood sign, all right? So,
Ooh.
on September 6th, 1932, aspiring actress Peg Entwistle, Entwistle?
Entwistle.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Entwistle.
Wait, how do you know that? Did you just
Because-
look that up?
No, but John Entwistle was the bassist for The Who, and that's how you say the name, because it's probably spelled the same, like E-N-T Whistle.
On September 6, 1932, aspiring actress Peg Entwistle jumped to her death off the H on the Hollywood sign, all right? Why did she kill herself? Well, she was intoxicated and depressed because her first big film role was cut, actually, from David O. Selznick's 13 Women. David O. Selznick, of course, being the famous, prolific director from the early 1900s, which is a weird phrase for me to say, the early 1900s, now that we're not in that it doesn't matter. She was found the next day by a hiker, okay, and along with it was a suicide letter, and the suicide letter wrote, "I am afraid, I am a coward, I am sorry for everything. If I had done this a long time ago, it would have saved a lot of pain. P.E." Which is a very somber, depressing suicide note. Not really a lot of funny stuff about that one. I thought about it a lot to try to find something funny, but I didn't want to. I decided against it.
Okay.
It just felt weird making fun of somebody's suicide note, you know? Like, you don't want to do that.
No, I feel terrible for Miss Entwistle.
Oh, yeah. But that's okay, though, because guess what, Kyle? She's still around.
What?
See, most hikers that go around that area, they say that you can smell a strong scent of gardenias, and that is the consistent thing about the ghost of Peg Entwistle, right? She appears as a blonde woman who seems to be floating, and people that are around that area describe an uneasy feeling, and eventually they say they smell an overwhelming scent of gardenias, and they see a floating person with a very skeletal face and deep hollowed out eyes, right? And this sighting happens pretty consistently, actually, which is kind of crazy to think about. One in 1990, they said that a girl dressed in 1930s clothes was completely disoriented and freaking out, and these hikers were trying to help her, and then she disappeared in front of their eyes, which,
Wow.
whew, That's fun, right? People still claim to see the ghost today. It is pretty much the most famous ghost when it comes to the Hollywood side. And by the way, for people who don't live in Los Angeles, it is illegal technically to hike to the Hollywood sign. It is all fenced off. You cannot get to it legally. I do not recommend doing it if you are ever in the Los Angeles area because it is very dangerous and you can fall off the mountain and die. Do not do that. Now that that's out of the way, sounds pretty kick-ass to go over there, right? And film, right? It sounds good.
I love that you just recorded an entire... Zach, you just recorded an entire PSA, don't do this, and then all of a sudden you're like, it sounds fun, okay? You are basically
What?
Tim Meadows in Walk Hard, okay? It has 0 side effects.
God, I love that character. Look, I'm just saying, you know, I would do the worst 80s PSAs. I'd be like, kids, don't do drugs unless you just need to chill out and you're not looking for calories from liquor.
Oh, God.
Kids, don't do drugs, but it's okay to be California sober, which is weed, by the way, and no alcohol for anyone not living in California.
Yeah, New England sober, I think, is just beer.
Yeah.
New England sober, beer mixed with burning self-hatred, okay?
Oh, right. So it seems like it's a heavy Catholic town.
State, more like it, if anything, too. But that actually is one of the things that's so interesting about Peg and Whistle and these stories is how they're specifically tied to geography. And that's one of the things that I really liked about doing this was actually getting to know a little bit about Weird America and its history. See, these urban legends help propel me to learn more. And that is one of the things that urban legends can necessarily do. For people that are predisposed to necessarily believe these things, these can lead people down dangerous paths, including breaking into private property and engaging in trespassing or putting their lives in danger by going to places where they necessarily shouldn't. When we covered feral people in the national park, that was one of the things was, like, don't go off the path because you might actually find yourself in danger, not because of anything apart from this is nature that we haven't fully understood or figured out yet.
It's actually funny that you say that because I was doing research on one urban legend that's actually in Kentucky, the Goat Man, and I felt really
Goat
good
Man.
about it. And then I realized that a girl died in 2016 trying to find the Goat Man as she got hit by a train. And I was just like, well, maybe I'm just going to skip that one. Maybe I'm just going to skip that one for now.
I think that's fair. Give it some proximity. There are people that, and kids who are predisposed to like this sort of thing that may engage in negative behavior for this sort of thing. I've already said, like, you know, in the past I decided to go traipsing around an abandoned hospital because I, an educated man, do all the best things all the time. Like, it was the idiocy of youth that all of a sudden put me into this position. As my child listens right here and no doubt all of a sudden says, I'm gonna do that.
Dudleytown. I like the idea of it's like a Rugrats style, like, adventure where he goes to Dudleytown.
Oh, man. I mean, this kid is gonna repeat all sorts of things. 7 gates of hell. Great.
Oh, man. So I mean, that's all the urban myths or urban legends I have. This is a fun episode, though. I really enjoy urban myths.
Yeah, I think if if the planet has not fallen apart in another year, we're going to do this again because this is so much fun and we're going to be able to spread it worldwide. If you, the listener and viewer who have made it through this episode, 1, we thank you. 2, we encourage you to send us your favorite urban legends. Mail it to us at thosewhoconspire@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, and you can also reach us on Twitter at ConspireWho. You can also send your favorite spooky tales to each of us at our socials. I am at Kyle is Moody on Twitter and Instagram. Zach, where can they find you? Strung up outside the Hollywood sign.
On Twitter, I'm real_Hightower. On Instagram, I'm Real Hightower. No, on Twitter, I'm Zack_Hightower. Did I say that right? On Instagram, I'm Real Hightower. And also, guys, and ladies, I say guys like I mean like everybody. I don't mean like, it doesn't matter. Guys and ladies, Are children
amazing.
listening to the show? I don't know. You guys, please like us on iTunes, subscribe, comment, leave us some feedback on there. You know what I mean? Give us some ratings because we need some more ratings on there. So just subscribe, not describe. Don't describe the show in the comments. That's weird. Subscribe. I said the wrong word before that. Kyle, save me from myself.
Zach, I love you so much. You bring a lighthearted energy and verve to the show that it desperately needs to take away from my moodiness.
Oh, well, I guess that about wraps it up.
We actually have, we're not going to say too much more, but we actually have some special guests coming up on some future pods. So now that we're done with Spooktober, you can look forward to some of our future guest episodes. We're going to dive back into the world of conspiracy theories proper, so actually scary things, but this has been a fun digression for us.
One of the things about this show is me and Kyle always go on long, between 5 and 10 minute pop culture things at the top of the show. And to be honest with you guys, a lot of the times I end up cutting them because it's a nice way for me and Kyle to get warmed up. It's a nice way for us to get back into the groove, but it doesn't really have to do with the episode a bunch. So we've decided to kind of take those out of the front and just put them after the credits. So if you want to hear a fun pop culture, tirade, as I call them, tirades, are we furious while we record them? I don't think so.
I think it's more of a digression, but, not to get academic
it's a digression.
about it.
So if you want to hear a digression from Academic Joe over here, I don't know what that means. We can...
Yes!
Academic Joe. That sounds like somebody complaining about Joe Biden. That sounds like, Academic Joe over there, Mr. Education. This really went off the rails.
Which is why we tack the list at the end, okay? These sorts of things can only be held onto by our true fans, our true conspirators.
So, everybody, wait after the credits. It'll be an extra 5 to 10 minutes of content, and it's not going to have anything to do with the conspiracy, but it's just fun. So, stay tuned if you want to listen.
That's right. He gave you the double finger guns. I'll do that too, because I love everything about that.
How creepy would it be if I have two up and then a third one comes up in the middle and you're like, wait, what?
That'd be amazing. Why didn't you do that? That would be so great, just to throw me off completely.
What would be hilarious if it's if it's obviously a baby hand or something? Be like, is there a baby in there? Do you just have a baby on the floor?
With a gun?
Well, this is America. That wouldn't be strange. Anyways, we should wrap this up.
Look, okay, besides our infants with guns statistics that you can horrifyingly find on any other crime website, as always, we appreciate your time, your listening, your attention. It's always we get to spend this time with you, our true conspirators. So until next time, I'm Kyle.
And I'm Zach.
And this is Those Who Conspire.
Bye. So I just have to ask, have you watched Halloween Kills yet?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I have not. I actually know that I will watch it, but not on Peacock. It's hard to get a babysitter during this time, so we're probably not going to get to see it in theaters. My wife wants to see it on the biggest screen possible, but not pay for Peacock, which I can respect. So I paid more money to go pre-order the 4K, because that's me.
Oh my God. Well, I was going to say, if you want to just borrow my Peacock membership, you can to watch it. Because I can go see the new James Bond movie.
Okay, I'm going to try to see it, but look at this dude right here, okay? I can't really walk with him on my back too, or maybe he can come in just like the three kids in a trench coat from BoJack. That could be the thing. One adult,
That's one of my
please.
favorite gags.
Yeah, but one adult, please, because both he and I are pretty tiny, so just combined, we make one person, all right? And it only makes sense, of course, that he's the one at the top. Because there's me walking around with my child.
Just a child on top just doing this. Asking for one glass of beer.
Do you like it?
It's okay. It's okay.
But I have some trusted critics that have said that it's great. I mean, with you, I trust most of all because our interests tend to overlap a lot. So am willing to back that up.
There's a lot of character motivations that I don't buy. And a lot of the movie's plot kind of hinges on that. Like it you know what I mean? Like it all depends on those motivations. And me and Lizzie, while we were watching it last night, we literally had moments where we were like, we don't know why this is happening. Why is this person doing this? This doesn't make any sense. Like, it happened the entire time. But, you know, it's still a Halloween movie, so it's got some good kills and it's fun.
I mean, that's the thing. It might be my favorite franchise of all, to be honest, just in terms of going back in. Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, Marvel exists on a separate plane, but for what Halloween provides, it's almost always reliable. I understand, like, the franchise rankings can obviously include Bond. Do you consider the Richard Linklater before movies to be their own franchise? I mean, that's a really crass way of putting that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's 3 of them. Have they made a 4th yet?
Not yet. Maybe it's just going to be called After. Wah, wah.
After. It's just Ethan Hawke's funeral. And she's just like, ah! And then she walks around a graveyard with Ethan Hawke all night long talking to the ghosts, and he's going to disappear at sunrise, so it's called Before Sunrise.
So Before Sun. Yes, Zach. Yeah. Get in touch with Linklater. Okay, we got to make this happen. All right, Ghost Hawk. Before Sunset, Ghost Hawk.